Us health and safety professionals, we often say that we should motivate people through positive actions, positive things that we do. For example, you could praise people, encourage people, train people, all those kinds of things. And these are generally considered to be more effective than, say, disciplinary action, threats and coercion and so on. So there's this old rule, which is probably a little bit of a cliche, where it's like 80% carrot and 20% stick. But I often get people saying to me, said, listen, Will, yeah, when it comes to praise, I don't like praising people because I feel like a bit of a prat. And yeah, you probably do come across as a bit of a prat if you say things like, oh, well done you, wearing your safety glasses, fantastic, spot on, champion. You know, it's like, yeah, that is a bit patronizing, isn't it? We know that. So the question is, how do we use praise? Because praise is such an effective tool to get what you want out of people. It works on children especially well. You know, if you watch a child like a hawk and then they finally do something the way you want them to do it, it's like then you have to pounce and praise. So what I thought I'd do, I'd just share a very simple structure for how I would deliver praise to somebody. And then I'll work through some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to praise, some of the things that you must do, some of the mistakes to avoid. Now the structure is this. Let's say I've noticed somebody using a knife very carefully, very basic stuff. So they're cutting away from their body at all times. And I spot this and I could approach them. Now I don't want to say, hey, well done, great use of the knife, very safe and all that. I use the same approach that I use for delivering criticism and feedback. So that the approach is this. So one, I will tell them what I have observed, very specifically what I've seen them do. Second, I will point out the consequences of that. And in this case, it will be positive consequences. Three, I will follow up with some kind of question to get a conversation going, to build a relationship, see if there's any further improvements, to engage that person a bit more. So what would it sound like? I would say, oh, hi there. Yeah, I couldn't help but notice that you take great care when using that knife, and I've just watched you for a minute, and at no point did you cut towards yourself. I just noticed how you twisted and turned, and you always made sure the blade was going away from you. That's what I've observed. Number two, what are the positive consequences? And it says, and I've got no doubts that if you do that all the time, there's absolutely not a cat in hell's chance that you are ever going to cut yourself. Three, let's ask a question. We could say, I don't know, any question you like, what's appropriate. If this person is a bit of an outlier, if they're the only person behaving safely, you could say, I've noticed that some of your colleagues aren't quite as careful as you with the knife. Have you got any ideas of what we could do to help them use a knife just as carefully as you? Or if they're not an outlier, you could say, I'm really interested to know, it's like, what made you develop that habit of using the knife so carefully? Why are you so careful using a knife? That's going to get an interesting conversation going where you can build a relationship, find out more about the person, and all of that is really useful for the future. Now, some do's and don'ts. One of the do's is be specific. Don't praise vaguely with like, great job, well done, really happy with your performance. Like, well, what about my performance? What about my job is good? So tell them exactly what you liked. Number two is praise in public. My old boss used to say, praise in public, bollock in private. Yes, praise is best delivered in public. You can also deliver praise behind someone's back as well. You can tell other people what that person did really well, and what that tends to do is, you know, Chinese whispers, it'll filter back to them. They'll find out that you're saying good things about them. But do praise them in public, but do be careful with this. There are some exceptions. If the person is an introvert, if they are shy, you don't want to be making a big deal praising them in front of all their colleagues. They won't like it. So for introverts, you might want to pull them to one side and then quietly have that good conversation. Another situation where you might want to be careful of praising in public is when you have a very negative safety culture or a very rebellious culture where someone might get alienated or ostracized by their colleagues because they're seen as a do-gooder or a bootlicker, you know, someone who's kissing management's backside, that kind of thing. So those types of people, maybe you want to, well, in that type of culture, maybe you want to praise them in private or a little bit more discreetly. Other things to do is praise individuals. Don't praise teams. Don't say, hey team, great job, well done. Yeah, well, you know, it's a bit vague, isn't it? If the whole team's performed well, praise individual members of the team. So, right, you really happy with how you did this, how you did that. That was brilliant. What you did there, you did this, and that was absolutely fantastic. You did a great toolbox talk. You asked the questions. You really engaged with people. You didn't just talk to them. You talked with them. You absolutely loved how you did this. You know, like, go through the team. Another thing is, don't overpraise. You've got to keep the praise proportionate to what they've done. And you know, and a lot of things, you know, a lot of behaviors are just normal expected standards that they have to adhere to, you know, like wearing PPE. It's like, so, well, everyone wears, everyone wears their hearing protection. Like, what are you going to do? Walk around praising everyone for wearing their hearing protection? So you got to keep it proportionate. And sometimes it's just an acknowledgement. That's all. Sometimes it could just be a look or a comment. It's like, oh, you've got those earplugs in, like, all the way in, haven't you? But you're deaf without, because all those safety glasses are clean. You know, it could just be a little comment just to acknowledge that they are behaving safely, if that's all that's necessary. But definitely do not overpraise. Don't tell people that they are amazing when they are not. And even if they are amazing, sometimes you might want to back off a little bit. I once had a managing director who came in and told a whole team, you are the best team that I've worked with in 30 years of working in industry. And it's like, yeah, that whole team just stopped. They just stopped. They thought, whoa, we're clearly exceeding expectations. We don't need to try as hard. And that team's performance just declined like overnight. And it's like, yeah, that wasn't helpful. That wasn't helpful praise. Maybe you overdid it there. Finally, I'll say this. It's usually not good practice to attach a condition to the praise. It's like, oh yeah, that's really well done. I would like you to do more of that in future. Or, you know, I love how you delivered this. I love how you did that toolbox talk. I want to see you do 2 of those every month or every week. You know, just deliver the praise. That'll do. Now, there are some situations though where maybe there's an exception to that. And one of the exceptions is that the praise is for progress or improvement, but they're still far from the expected standard. So let's say their working area has been very untidy and they've made a particularly good effort to get it a lot tidier. It's still not perfect. It's still a bit untidy, but it's a lot better than it was. You don't want them to stop there, do you? You want to praise them for the efforts and the improvements that they've made, but you still want them to carry on and set a higher standard. So in that situation, you might want to kind of attach a condition, but I wouldn't attach it as a condition. I would say, right, well done. This area is looking a lot better. I can see that's tidy, that's shiny. Those things have been put away. The floor's clear. And you're obviously going to keep on top of this now. I'm interested to know, what else are you going to do so that by next week, it's even tidier? So you do it with a question. What else are you going to do? What more can you do? What do you suggest could be done to make this even better? And so you, again, start a conversation. You get them to tell you what should be done, get their ideas, which is a hell of a lot better than you telling them what should be done, because people will usually implement their own ideas with a lot more enthusiasm than they'll implement yours. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. If you got any views on this, make sure you give me a like, comment, subscribe, connect, and all of that nonsense. And I'll enjoy the rest of my walk. See you later.